Hello and welcome to Coming Home with Mama T. I'm your host, Tiara, aka Mama T. And on this podcast, we explore the journey of creating the life of our desires through mastering manifestation, maintaining a positive mindset, and living luxuriously. Today, we have a very special guest. We have Tina C. Hines, a fifth generation empath, intuitive clairvoyant, medium, and healer. She holds certification as a life and international transformation coach, dedicating her life's purpose to guiding emotionally wounded women on a transformative journey towards self-love, self-care, and self-worth. With a wealth of experience, Tina has graced numerous podcasts and featured in esteemed media platforms, including Good Morning America, the New York Times, the Tamron Hall Show, and the Trenton Show. Her influence extends across continents as she traverses the United States, Asia, Africa, and the Caribbean, hosting healing retreats that empower women to rediscover their own happiness. Tina's distinctive approach has established her as an authority in transformational coaching. Her vision is clear and profound to embolden women to embrace unapologetic abundance, allowing them to craft the lives they truly desire. Before embarking on her journey as a certified life coach, Tina spent an impressive 3 decades in corporate America serving as an executive assistant. This extensive background enriches her coaching with a unique depth of insight and practical wisdom. Currently, Tina resides in the vibrant city of Marrakech, Morocco, alongside her cherished son. Tina, thank you so much for being here. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Mama T, for inviting me to be here.
Yes, of course. So there's so much juicy richness in your bio. So I'm super excited to just dive right in. First thing that pops up is the fifth generation empath and clairvoyant. So like you grew up in a space where you guys were just all I tell me about it. I want to know more.
Actually, I didn't grow up in a space where we talked about this. I didn't find out that I had all of these gifts until I was 40 years old.
Oh wow.
And it was so interesting the way I found out. um, Literally, I thought I was going crazy. I was going through a balance of clinical depression and an
Mhm.
awakening at the same time, trying to understand, navigate both of them because I had never experienced either. And in the process, I was receiving Reiki. And in the midst of the Reiki, I started seeing my grandmother's spirit around me.
Mm.
And my Reiki girl, whom I love dearly, helped me navigate all of this. And she's like, "You were very emotional after the session." And I was like, "I'm seeing my grandmothers and I don't know why. And what the heck is going on?" And what was great was I started asking. My mom's the oldest of 10, and I'm an only child. So I started asking my aunts and uncles, has anyone in our family ever experienced it? And they kept passing me around. Go talk to this one. Go talk to this one. I'm like, is anyone going to answer my question? Because apparently there's something there.
Right.
And eventually, one of my mom's sisters encouraged me to go talk to my grandmother's niece. And at the time, I think she was like 83 years old. And she's like, go talk to cousin Jenny. Maybe she'll be able to help you. And I reached out to her and I said, "Listen, I think I'm going to have to put myself in a hospital because I'm seeing dead people and it's a little uncomfortable." And she's like, "So tell me what it is. Tell me what's going on." And I says, "Well, I see Nana, which is my grandmother, and I see your mother, and my grandmother and her mother were sisters."
Mhm.
And I said, "I'm seeing Grandma Harriet, and I'm seeing some woman, I don't know who the heck she is, but she keeps hovering over me." And she's like, "Describe her to me." And so I proceeded to describe her. And she goes, "Oh, that's your great great grandma Jenny. That's who I'm named after. And you're just like her. And I've been waiting for you." And that's how I found out.
That is amazing. That's such a wonderful story. I love that. So once you found out, what kind of were your next steps? Were you accepting of it immediately, or did you it take some time to kind of process?
It took a little bit of time to process. And what was great was having her as a resource to help me navigate it. She actually had a picture of my great great grandmother. And at certain times, I looked just like her, which is
Mm.
crazy. And she explained to me some of the experiences. And then as she shared with me about family experience, like I could tell her, I was like, have people ever been lined up at your mother's house to go in for healing? Because each person had a different gift. My grandmother had dreams. And what was great was she wrote in a journal. So she wrote her dreams down in a journal. And I was the first person in the family to read these journals. So we have 3 journals that my grandmother had telling stories about her experiences growing up, in addition to her dreams. And as I'm reading some of the dreams, I'm like, I remember this happening. And I'm sharing it with my aunt who gave it to me. And she says, but you were too young to remember any of this. And I'm like, I'm describing colors of houses and streets, what's going by them. And she was like, this is crazy. Um, so I didn't fight it. I sort of embraced it. It was like over the years of my 3 decades in corporate America, made me feel real old when you said that. I was like, wow, 3 decades. It just, I knew I was being prepared for something. I just didn't know what. I knew there was something bigger. Couldn't put my finger on it. And to be able to know that all of these women on my mom's side of the family had these amazing gifts. We grew up in a very religious household. My great-great-grandfather was a Pentecostal minister, so we spent a lot of time in church. Mm-hmm. And so the way that I describe it, you struggle with it because I wondered, am I going against God with this gift? And at the same time, I'm going to church and I'm thinking, these people in church is draining the heck out of me. And I don't want to be there. And so I started I like to call it like a 100-word puzzle together. And I just started putting together pieces of a puzzle of some of the experiences that I've had, whether it's in corporate America or in my personal life, that started to make better sense to me. And I literally started leaning into it. I never felt like I was fighting it at any point.
Oh, that's wonderful. I want to kind of lean into the church versus, these gifts and kind of how you navigate it. Because I know for me personally, I grew up, went to like Baptist church and, on Sundays. And so as I started getting into Reiki and tarot and all of this, I had that same kind of that fight of like, well, I believed one thing my whole life, and now is this like going against it, and how do I mix it? So can you talk a little bit about your experience?
What's so interesting is my mother's a minister and she's still walking the earth. I'm just a heathen of the family. I don't, but this is how I look at it, Tiara. Having this gift is different than when my grandmother, my mother, and them were growing up, because it was considered evil and for some people, and you really don't discuss it. And of course, we grew up in an age where you don't talk about what's going on in the household. And so as we get older, it's becoming more acceptable. The right people are entering your life to make it more acceptable. And for me, when I have conversations, because I always come up against, there are people who are very, very religious, who are who are more religious than spiritual, and they struggle with if your gift is not of God, it is evil. I call it GUS, God, Universe, Source. GUS comes to people in various forms, and my role here is not to convince you of this gift. It is not to take away from what your spiritual or religious beliefs are. I allow myself to be open to all different faiths. Why? Because each of them pour something into me. It fills my tank. I take a piece from here, a piece from here, a piece from here. It's the highly religious people who struggle with it. But I always ask the biggest question is this, that some people struggle with answering. Twofold. One, what makes someone with a gift like mine different than a prophet? Number one. Number two, now this is where I struggle with the Bible. Joseph had visions, and he would tell his father these visions. So what would make what we see in the Bible, what we read in the Bible, any different than this living, walking, breathing angel, as I call her? Yeah. Living, walking, breathing angel who is helping people. I think what's happening is a lot of times they look at the dark side of what how people use their gift. There is nothing dark about me. I am pure, illuminated light. Yes. And if serving and helping women operate in a space of healing and happiness is is wrong. I don't want to be right, as the saying
Mm-hmm.
goes,
Mm-hmm.
because that is literally what happened. I'm not sitting here saying, oh, don't believe in God. I believe the saying, faith without works is dead. You have to do the work if you are on a healing journey. There's nothing miraculous that's going to happen. You have to put forth some effort to open yourself up to the possibilities of what you're experiencing, and also not use your higher power as a scapegoat to not do the work.
Oof, that is some deep, that is so deep. And I love it, you know, like the faith without works. What was this quote? I love that.
Faith without works is dead. It's in the Bible. Faith
Faith
without works
without
is
works
dead,
is dead. And that, and
meaning you're not working.
yeah. There's so many people on this earth that have the faith, but they're not willing to do the work. And so that is so powerful to bring that to light. So thank you for sharing that.
Let me
Um,
give you an analogy, because I want to
yes.
give, because we were talking about the church earlier. Because when I went to church, I haven't gone in so long, I struggled with it, being an empath and feeling everybody's energy. And I used to sit in the back of the church and just be observant. And churches are predominantly filled with women,
Mm-hmm.
right? A lot of the women may be going through struggles, financial, marital issues, relationship, what have you. And they come to receive the word. And I envisioned they zip themselves down to expose their inner, to get the word from the person on the podium delivering it on the altar. And after they get the word, they zip themselves back up and they go home. And they'll say, wow, Pastor delivered a word for me today. That was the message you were supposed to receive. Pastor was the messenger. You got the message. Now, what are you going to do with the message that's going to change what you're experiencing? Because that was the reason you needed the message. That was the reason you needed the word. But what's happening is sometimes, not always, for the people who are listening in the back, you return every Sunday, but you're not doing the work to begin the healing that you say you desire to have. And you show up, expose yourself, get the word, but then you don't do anything with it. You don't take the message and dissect it and how it applies to your particular situation. And I think that's the reason why every time I would leave church on Sundays, I would be so physically drained, because they're opening themselves up to receive, but not doing the work.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's like, I feel like it's like this dopamine drip. They go every week for the dopamine, and then that's it. And then they just like are waiting for the next one and the next one and the next one. And the in between, that's where the magic happens. That's where the work happens. That's where the miracles show up, when we actually do something with that message.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, yes. So I heard spirituality and religion. Do you see those as two different things, and can you define them for us?
I don't know if I can give you an accurate definition, but when I think about spirituality, I had this conversation with my mother, a lot of interesting conversations. I think spiritual people are more open to a lot of things, where religious people are, this is what the Bible says, and we don't go against it. And part of the reason I struggle with it is when it comes to, you're supposed to love everybody. That's what the Bible says. But certain religious people, let me be clear, they can't find it in themselves to love everybody. They can't love the person who loves the same sex. They struggle with that. They can't love the person who loves another person who happens to be committing adultery. They can't love it because in the Bible it says it's wrong. In the Bible it says it's wrong. And that's where, for me, the disconnect between people who are spiritual people are like, we're floating around. We're like on a different planet of, we love you, we embrace you. And religious people are, well, the Bible says this, so I can't love you anymore. And I think more so I'm holding on to that component when it comes to having same-sex relationships. I have family members who have same-sex relationships. I don't love them any differently. I just love them.
Yes.
And then I have the religious side of our family who sits and judges them. I struggle with that.
Oh, yeah.
So that's a personal thing that I struggle with.
Same. I totally I feel that. I feel that so deeply. And that's a beautiful way to put it. And I love that perspective. The love that's really, I feel like totally like my brain just like opened up. So thank
Yes.
you for that insight. Um Creating like a transformation, and in that, let's talk about your work as a transformational coach, and how did you come into that space, and what does working with you look like?
Well, it's interesting as I was coming out of my depression and my experiencing my awakening, I had started listening to guided meditation with Deepak Chopra.
Mhm.
And one of the questions that was asked was, "Who am I?" And all of the responses started out with labels that I was: mom, daughter, niece, all of these labels that a lot of us carry. And
Mhm.
then I started diving a little bit deeper, excuse me, of who I was as a woman and what I wanted to embrace. And I used to have a book club, but we never read the daggone books. We just started talking about life as being moms, as being wives and
Mhm.
friends, and the challenges that we as women face. And one day we were meeting and I had a flip chart and they were like, "Oh shit, Tina's up to something." And I was like, "I had a question. Who am I?" And I was like, "We're going to answer this question today." And I had asked them, I says, "What do you all see me as?" And they were like, you are a confidant. You answer certain questions for us. You're non-judgmental. And I was like, yeah. I kept saying a coach of some sort. Like my response was always a coach of some sort. And after that exercise, I really started leaning into, I want to be able to help women in a different way.
Mhm.
I always brought women together we would have a New York day, go to the city and just relax. I always created spaces for us to be seen and heard. And so I wanted to do something on a grander scale and create a space where I could fully support them through my practice. I didn't like the word coach, which is why I call it life transformation specialist. I struggle with that because I don't want to feel like I'm on the sidelines. Woo, woo, come on, you can do this. It is about making a transformation because when you're healing, you're transforming. And many times when we're healing, we're also growing. We're not
Mhm.
changing, we're growing because we're gathering new information that's going to support us on this journey of growth. And as I started working with women, and it started out just very incremental, I just recognized the transformation that they experience by the way they allow themselves to surrender and be vulnerable and feel safe and have these conversations about things that they struggle with sharing with others. Um, my thing is, I'm not here to judge you, I'm here to help you. Nothing you say will surprise me. And tapping into the root cause of why you're experiencing whatever it is in that moment, feelings of abandonment, um, struggling with past challenges that you faced, the past abuse, and identifying the root cause of it so you can learn how to navigate your life in spite of what happened, allowing yourself to control it versus it having control of you.
Mhm.
And a lot of that stems from my own personal experiences. That's why I say the 30 years that I spent in corporate America was really school for me. It was school to prepare me for this leg of the journey. There are many people like me, sometimes they go to classes or courses and what have you, and my grandmother, Grandma Jenny, doesn't allow me to do that. Everything is innate.
Mhm.
It is, I heard the message of a couple of things. Number one, we're tired and it's time for y'all to take the baton. And this is for everybody in the spiritual world. It's time for you to take over. Your ancestors are tired. All right.
All right.
And number two, that's not how we learn. We didn't learn that way. We learned by doing.
Mhm.
And that's what we want you to learn by doing. And literally, I learned by doing. I was on Facebook telling people who wants to ride the wave and answering questions for them. And I'm like, how the hell did I know that? I don't even know who this person is. So my gifts were being developed by using them.
Mhm.
And every couple of cycles, I go through a different spiritual awakening. And all of them have been used in different forms. It started out with the clairvoyancy as well as the empath. And then it shifted over to the mediumship, and it was intense with the mediumship. I had one client, her little daughter would hang out in my bedroom all the time, and it was just so interesting. Yeah, I have so many different stories of family members. I have another young lady, her father would hang out at my fireplace and smoke cigars. So it's always interesting. And so that went on for a few years, and now it has transitioned into the healing. And the cycle of healing is really where my grandmother wants me to pour all of my energy, because that's really what she did. And I just completed the ultimate test of working on 5 clients in one day. And it was very interesting. And so I incorporate my metaphysical gifts into my coaching based on the needs of my clients. So when we have our consultation, number one, I understand whether the need is coaching or whether it's therapy, because there's a fine line between the two, and I don't cross the therapeutic side. I do have clients that I've worked with in tandem of therapy or after they have finished therapy. And so when I'm working with them, I tell them, I was like, one of the big differences between me and a therapist is I cuss. And so your therapist ain't gonna cuss at you, but I am. And I said, but I don't have a filter. I held my filter for a very long time in corporate America. And now that I've left, I'm being authentic. My clients like to say, Tina is tough love with a hint of compassion, and always bring Kleenex.
Oh, that's beautiful. Oh man, I love that. So in the learning by doing, because I feel like we're in a society where people are like, I need the degree now, I need this now. Can you talk about like allowing the time and space for that mastery, for the next leveling, to open up all of those gifts a little bit, and maybe creating some space for us to allow ourselves to actually do the work rather than try to force the knowledge so we can take it to make money or do whatever with it?
What's so amazing is, everybody's spirit guides are unique. And if you don't create the space, you will be forced to create the space. Let me tell you, they will take you out. And it is important that we allow ourselves to stop every now and again, even personally for your own soul healing, is to turn the volume down. So you start creating different practices. You start releasing and journaling. I call it releasing the pain through your pen. Whatever you are working through, putting it on paper, because many times it's mixed up here with the grocery list. It's in your head with the grocery list, the things that are going on at work and everything else. And you have to get it on paper, because you're putting together a puzzle. You don't know what the inside is going to look like, but the exterior is very, very easy to put together. It's the interior that's a little bit of a struggle. And so you create the spaces for you to do that, to do the journaling, to sit in stillness, to meditate. If you're waking up at 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, spirit is like, get up, because this is the only time I got you quiet for you to hear. And sometimes we have to tune into what we don't hear. We're always getting messages. Even people who say, oh, I think I'm intuitive. I said, you're not getting quiet enough to hear, but you're consistently receiving messages. Loved ones are around you. You just have to be willing to turn down the volume. And be conscious of the spaces that you're in, because if there's some dis-ease in certain spaces, you'll be pushed out of it because they don't want you there, because that's not conducive to the work that you're being called to do. Even with the right people. My Reiki girl was the first leg of many that I stepped on to get to where I am today, because we all have these teachers who come in our lives for whatever reason in that moment. Yeah. And I would always go back to her when I struggled with certain situations, because she was just very knowledgeable. She was someone who really dived deep into everything. I didn't. And there was a woman who said, I haven't met too many Black mediums. And I really think you should go to England and go to this class. It was going to be great for you. And she kept being aggressive with trying to get me to go. And my Reiki girl said, she goes, did Grandma Jenny tell you to do it? And I go, no. She says, then you're not supposed to do it. And that sort of clicked a button for me of
Mhm.
I have to tune into that to make my own decisions. But it did in the early stages, I didn't click. I'm like, well, I don't know. Somebody just telling me I need to develop it. I think I need to go get it to be
Right.
all able to use all the right terminology and everything. And I struggled with that, because I know that there are others who are in this same space and they use the right terminology, they say everything right. But who's to say what I'm not saying is right for the person who's coming to me?
Mm-hmm.
And who am I connecting with? Because there are a number of times where I have connected with individuals, my biggest question is, have you ever worked with someone who has metaphysical gifts? And they were like, yeah. And I says, well, we're not all created equal, right? And I says, so let's be clear. Everybody's gifts are unique in its own way. And so you
Mm-hmm.
have to accept that individual for who they are and not have the same expectation. Well, they read cards this way and this person did that way. We're not all created equal. So you can't say it's what you were expecting to get and that you did not get, that you were like, okay, something's wrong here. So we
Mm-hmm.
have to have a level of discernment when we're also allowing people in our space and that energetic connection. Because trust me, your question that you asked, if I didn't feel there was a level of connection, I would have immediately said, no, ma'am. Because my grandma will knock you down and you'll be like, why do I feel so dizzy after working with you, Tina? That's why.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you so much for your time, Tina. Is there what are you working on that our audience can tap into and work with you?
So one of the things that I have been leaning into is I do monthly energy clearing collectives. I do this with about 6 women once a month via Zoom. And if you want to experience feeling lighter and feeling at ease and whatever is weighing you down to dissipate, I encourage you to join one of our monthly collective energy clearing sessions, or you can book something privately as well. And I also wanted to share that every year I do healing retreats for women in amazing places like Anguilla, British West Indies, Morocco, where I currently live, and Bali, which is where we're headed in a few weeks, to Bali. So
That's
I do these
beautiful.
every year for women to just escape the United States and the weight that is on us there.
I love that. That is magical. I definitely will be putting all of your links in the show notes. So if anyone's interested in checking all of that out, please do so. And then right now, I'm just going to shift the conversation to a little bit of energy clearing. So is there anything specific you want to aim towards, or just clearing in general?
Just clearing in general.
All right, let's do it. All righty. And so those of us who are listening, I invite you, if you're in a safe space to do so, to get comfy cozy, close your eyes. You can sit crisscross applesauce, you can lay down, whatever feels good for you and your body at this time. So inviting the breath to slow down, in through the nose and out through the mouth. Slow in and out. In and out. And in. I want you to envision a big white light coming down from the sky, entering in at the crown of the head, circling all around you, bringing warmth and love to every cell of your body. It drips down from the crown to your ears, your chin, throat, your shoulders, down your arms, past your elbows, down your forearms, through your fingertips, down your torso, your hips, quads, hamstrings, knees, shins, calves, out to the bottom of your feet and out past your toes, You are engulfed and encircled in this beautiful, warm, white light, held in a space at the frequency of love, allowing the love to just swarm around you, knowing that you are safe, knowing that it is okay to be at peace. You are divinely guided and supported. You are not alone. I invite you to just sit in this energy. I invite you to memorize and hold on to this energy and frequency, knowing that you can tap into it at any moment, at any time, any day, coming back to this space of peace and love and connection with yourself, God, Source, the universe, ancestors, spirit team. Know that you are so loved and supported. Taking in a couple more deep breaths. And when you feel ready, you can come back into the space, slowly blinking your eyes open, wiggling your fingers and your toes. I say thank you for sharing your time, your energy, and your love to this space, to the community, the collective. Thank you so much, Tina.
Thank you.
Is there anything else you would like to share before we hop off for today?
No, I just want to say, number one, I appreciate you for holding this space. It's an amazing space for those individuals who are open to receiving and being poured into. And I want to encourage your listeners to start living your life unapologetically so you can find authentic happiness for yourself, whatever it looks like for you.
Beautiful. Thank you, Tina. Thank you, listeners, for your time, space, and energy today. Remember to like, share, subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next episode. Well.